has his Cardinals team on point right now. With a potent offense and a playmaking defense, they appear to be the team to beat in the NFC right now. After thumping the Niners, the Cardinals have now outscored their opponents by 77 points in the team's first 3 games. 4 of the 5 teams since 1980 to accomplish the same feat went on to play in the Super Bowl. So according to FPI, Arizona has better than a 50% chance to win each of its remaining 13 games. Skip, you just heard all the numbers.
Yep.
Are the undefeated Cardinals a threat to really win the Super Bowl this year?
Stephen A., we got to meet Bruce Arians, you'll recall, at the ESPYs a couple of years ago, spent a little time with him. I really like this guy.
Yep.
I think he might be the best offensive mind in pro football. And what he is doing with later career Carson Palmer and now a later career Chris Johnson is just sensational.
And Larry Fitz.
And Larry Fitz, that's another good one. They're revitalized, all 3 of them, at advanced ages. I can't get sold on this team as a Super Bowl threat because it's built, to me, upside down. The offensive line's just okay. Might be even a little below average. The defensive line's below average. The front 7 on defense, not great. But, boy, you get to the skills positions, obviously on offense with the quarterback who's playing at an extremely high level right now, even though we don't have a great measuring stick because the opponents have been that New Orleans struggling defense in week 1, Chicago struggling offense more in week 2, and then the suddenly really struggling San Francisco defense this past Sunday. And I don't know yet. Not sure about that. But they can score and score quickly because of Chris Johnson, that little kid David Johnson they have at running back. I love Ellington. He can't stay healthy, but if they get him healthy, they're going to have a real deep firepower at running back. They have a deep receiving core. You mentioned Larry Fitz, John Brown, and it just gets deeper and deeper. They can flat out score the football. And on defense, there is no more potent cornerback safety combo than Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu. It's just sensational what they can do. You can have Richard Sherman and Cam if you want to, but these guys are right there, if not a touch ahead of them. So but they're built kind of from the back end up, that when you get to the forward half of the offense and the defense, it's not great. And I look at Carson Palmer's record. He's 0-2 lifetime in the playoffs. And in Arizona, he did beat Seattle at Seattle in a Week 13 game 2 years ago, a game in which Carson Palmer threw 4 interceptions, and they somehow won that game 17-10, and I don't know how they won it. But he has managed not to face Seattle since then, and now if he stays healthy, God bless him the rest of the way, he's going to have to go to the Seahawks on November 15th. They also go to the Steelers before that. And then they close with at Eagles, then Packers on December 27th, which could be a great matchup, and then Seahawks at home on January 3rd. Could be another great matchup. I want to see Carson Palmer against the premier competition because we haven't seen a lot of that in his time being upright in Arizona. He lasted 6 games last year, and they really didn't play anybody of note in those 6 games. So I just need to see a little bit more. I root for Bruce Arians. I root for Carson Palmer. They're fun to watch, but are they built to last? I'm sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Skip Bayless, I'm with you. I'm not sure about it either, but I think I'm a tad bit more positive about them than you are, because where you and I differ is that you think the offensive line is so-so. I'm not willing to go that far. I'm willing to give them a little bit more props than that, whether it's this kid Cooper, whether it's Valde only gave up a sack last year. I mean, I'm just looking at some of these guys, and then Uapati they got in the offseason. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Mm-hmm. Consider this, Skip Bayless. You have a situation where Carson Palmer has only thrown 1 or 2 interceptions on the season. He's only been sacked 1 time, and a trio of Ellington, and he's got to get back healthy, along with David Johnson and Chris Johnson, are each averaging better than 4 yards a carry out of the backfield running the football for this team. So if you give me an offensive line and you show me that every running back is averaging over 4 yards a carry, and you combine that with the fact that they've only surrendered 1 sack on the year, I got to give props where props is due. I said Carson Palmer only threw 2 interceptions. It was 2 interceptions that he's only thrown. He's already thrown 9 touchdown passes, which brings in another guy's name into the equation. Larry Fitzgerald came out of nowhere. He's usually your wideout. Once upon a time, one of the elite wide receivers in the game. But Bruce Arians had to sit down and have a talk with that man to let him know that father time, age, attrition is catching up to you just a little bit. I still can utilize you and make you a vital component of this offense, but you need to roll with what I'm trying to do. So now you see Larry Fitzgerald playing more in the slot, more so than he's playing on the outside. When you can look at that, and then you notice that he's got 28 receptions. I mean, what is it for here? Let me look at this number here, right here, Skip.
He has 5
He's got
TDs.
28 receptions for 333 yards, averaging 14.5 yards a catch. We didn't think that we would see those kind of numbers from a Larry Fitzgerald again, but that's what we're seeing. So if you've got Larry Fitzgerald with a John Brown who's got 17 receptions all of himself, and then you look at the trio of running backs, and you look at the fact that Carson Palmer can fling that football, particularly long range. Granted, first 3 games, New Orleans, 31 points, Chicago, 48 points, San Francisco, 47 points. We'll see what's going on. But when you talk to all the NFL experts, which I do constantly, particularly on my radio show, what they say to me, Skip, is this. Every time I bring up the Cowboys or I bring up Green Bay, they always say, don't forget Arizona. These guys went into Seattle a couple of years ago when they weren't the same team, beat Seattle. They're not scared of Seattle. They look forward to going up against Seattle and anybody else. You know from last year how they walked into Dallas and they beat Dallas last year. So when I look at it from that perspective, that's right, that's fair. But when I look at that, what it forces me to say is, what if they win enough games where they had some games in Arizona, when it counts, with the offensive brilliance of a guy like Bruce Arians and those corners? Because when you got Peterson and Tyron, I don't think you can summarily dismiss this team. They are playmakers. And even though Colin Kaepernick ain't the greatest example because he looks to have regressed, to pick 6 him that early on 2 occasions, early in the game Sunday, tells me that you have an elite secondary that's going to require an elite quarterback. Well, what I'm saying, y'all, is that an elite quarterback is going to have to beat them, and that's by playing elite, not just being elite. You have to play elite against them, and that's what I think makes them very, very interesting.
Okay, so your Super Bowl pick is Seattle. So what's going to happen at Seattle on November 15th and at Arizona on January 3rd? What happens in those 2 games?
I believe they split. I believe that they lose 1 game and they win 1 game against Seattle. I definitely believe that, but I'm not wavering from my pick that the Legion of Boom will go back to the Super Bowl, because I believe that whatever mission Tom Brady and the Patriots are on because of the Deflategate, Seattle is on a bigger mission because they believe they gave away a Super Bowl when Pete Carroll made the worst call in NFL history by not giving Marshawn Lynch the ball a half-yard away.
That bad man on December 27th plays at Arizona, a couple days after Christmas. Is it a Christmas present for you? Does Aaron Rodgers win that game, or does Arizona win that game?
I would favor Arizona, and I'd like you to keep in mind, I am an Aaron Rodgers fan, not a Green Bay Packers fan. I think that Aaron Rodgers can play at an elite level and still lose. And I think that's definitely plausible against Arizona.
Okay, so it sounds like you have Arizona losing only a couple of games, maybe.
I think Arizona's got a chance to go 12-4, 13-3. I think they're going to really battle nip and tuck with Seattle for the NFC West, and I think Seattle is behind the 8 ball because they lost those first 2 games. So they're already 2 games behind Arizona, and because they're going to split, they're going to remain 2 games behind. So Arizona is going to have to lose 2 additional games, all right, preferably within the conference, in order to pull out the NFC West. And I think that's a really, really hard sell at this particular moment in time to assume is going to take place.
Okay, I'm just saying no Super Bowl threat here in Arizona.
All right. They had double-digit.
I think they're a threat. I just don't know if they'll get it.
They had double-digit wins last year with 3 quarterbacks, so I certainly think they're a team to watch. And I'm with both of you. I'm looking forward to seeing this team against some elite competition and see what they do. After the break, more